The morning after Harold Jeffries was buried, Alma found her husband in the kitchen eating scrambled eggs like nothing had happened. Not crying, not staring at old photographs, eating eggs and scrolling through listings for a Porsche Cayenne on his phone. She stood in the doorway in her bathrobe watching him, and something cold moved through her chest. Yesterday she'd held this man's hand at the cemetery. She'd ironed his black suit. She'd made 3 trays of baked ziti for the repast because Harold always said nobody made it better. And now Vincent sat there with egg on his lip, tilting his phone so she couldn't see the screen. Lawyer called, he said without looking up. Dad's estate cleared probate faster than expected, $26 million. Alma's knees went soft. She gripped the doorframe. $26 million. Harold had been comfortable, sure. He'd owned commercial properties across Atlanta, a few apartment buildings in Decatur, a parking garage near the airport. But $26 million was another universe entirely. That's Vincent, that's incredible. Your father worked so hard for, my father worked so hard for me. Vincent set his fork down and finally looked at her. His eyes were flat like stones at the bottom of a creek. For his son, his blood. The way he said blood made Alma's skin tighten. Of course, she said slowly. For us. For Jalen. Vincent pushed back from the table and stood. He was a tall man, broad through the shoulders, and when he drew himself up to full height he could make any room feel smaller. I need to tell you something, Alma. And I need you to listen without getting emotional. She almost laughed. Without getting emotional. As if she hadn't spent 11 years managing his emotions. His temper when clients dropped him. His sulking when Harold criticized his business plans. His 3-month depression after the gym franchise collapsed. She'd held this man together with her bare hands more times than she could count. I'm listening, she said. I've been thinking about this for a while. About us. About where we're headed. Vincent crossed his arms. We got married young. You were 25. I was 27. We didn't know what we wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted. Well, I didn't. His voice hardened. And now I've got options, Alma. Real options. I can finally live the life I was supposed to live. And I need a partner who fits that life. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. The same refrigerator Harold had helped them pick out when they moved into this house, standing in the showroom at Home Depot comparing ice makers like it was the most important decision in the world. You want a divorce, Alma said. Not a question. I want us both to be happy. You want a divorce. Vincent sighed like she was being difficult. You'll be fine. You're a physical therapist. You've got skills, and honestly, Alma, you should be thanking me. Most men would drag this out. I'm giving you a clean break. And Jalen? Jalen's my son. He stays with me on weekends. We'll work it out. Alma stared at this man she'd loved for 11 years and tried to find any traces of the Vincent who'd cried at their wedding. The Vincent who'd painted Jalen's nursery himself. 3 coats of pale yellow because he wanted it perfect. The Vincent who'd sat with Harold through chemotherapy sessions, feeding him ice chips whispering, I got you, Pop. That Vincent was gone. Maybe he'd been gone for a while and she just hadn't noticed. There's one more thing, Vincent added almost as an afterthought. Dad's lawyer mentioned he left something for you separately, some kind of box. Said it was in the office safe. A box? Don't get excited, probably some jewelry or old letters. You know how sentimental he was. Vincent picked up his phone again, already moving on. I told the lawyer you'd pick it up whenever. No rush. He walked out of the kitchen and Alma heard him whistling as climbed the stairs. Whistling. The day after his father's funeral. She sank into the chair he'd vacated, still warm from his body, and pressed her palms flat against the table until her fingers turned white. A box. Harold had left her a box. Harold Jeffries Sr. had been more of a father to Alma than her own ever was. Her biological father left when she was 6, just vanished one Tuesday morning like steam off a sidewalk. Harold filled that space without ever being asked. He walked her down the aisle. He drove 45 minutes every Saturday to watch Jalen's soccer games. When Alma's mother died of pancreatic cancer 3 years ago, Harold was the one who sat beside her hospital bed reading Psalms aloud while Alma held her mama's hand and watched her breathe for the last time. Harold knew her, really knew her. If he left her a box, it meant something. The next morning, Alma dropped Jalen at school, kissed his forehead twice because once didn't feel like enough, and drove to the law office of Curtis Beaufort. The building was old brick and creaking wood, the kind of place that smelled like paper and permanence. Curtis had been Harold's attorney for 20 years and his fish buddy for longer than that. Alma. Curtis stood when she walked in, his eyes soft behind wire-rimmed glasses. Sit down. How you holding up? Holding. Curtis nodded, understanding everything she wasn't saying. He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a wooden box, maybe 8 inches square, polished dark walnut with brass hinges. Her name was carved into the lid in Harold's shaky handwriting. For Alma, private. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. Harold brought this in about 4 months ago, Curtis said quietly. Right after his second stroke. He was very specific. Said this was between you and him. Told me not to include it in the estate documents. Said Vincent wasn't to know. He said that Vincent wasn't to know? Curtis leaned back, choosing his words. What he actually said was, Curtis, my boy is about to lose his mind when that money hits his account. And when he does, Alma's going to need this more than she knows. Alma's throat closed. He knew. Harold saw it coming, the way he always saw everything, quietly, clearly, with that gentle patience that made people confess things to him they'd never tell anyone else. Curtis excused himself, closing the door softly behind him. Alma sat alone with the box in her lap, running her thumbs across the carved letters. Then she opened it. Inside, a handwritten letter folded crisp, a silver key and a debit card with her name embossed across the front. She unfolded the letter. My dear Alma, if Curtis gave you this box, then Vincent showed you who he is. I prayed he wouldn't. I prayed the money would bring out the best in him. But I know my son, and I know what greed does to a man who never learned to be satisfied. The key opens a safe deposit box at First Unity Bank on Ponce de Leon. Inside you'll find documents for an account I opened in your name 6 years ago. I've been putting money into it from investments. Vincent doesn't know about rental properties in Savannah, a storage facility in Macon, a silent partnership in a restaurant group. All legal, all clean, all documented. The balance as of last month is $31 million. Alma read the number 3 times. Then she read it again. I know you're shaking right now. I know you think it's too much. But sweetheart, you earned every dollar. You held my family together when my son tried to break it. You raised my grandson to be kind in a world that rewards cruelty. You drove me to dialysis at 5 a.m. without complaint. You loved me like a daughter, and I loved you like mine. This money is separate from Vincent's inheritance. He got 26 million. You got 31. And there's nothing he can do about it, because it was never his. It was always yours. But listen to me carefully. Don't tell him yet. Get yourself a lawyer. Protect Jalen. Get your ducks in a row. Then when you're ready, when you're safe, let the truth speak for itself. Be brave, sweetheart. Be smart. And remember that your worth was never measured in dollars. It was measured in the way you showed up every single day when no one was watching. With all my love, Harold. Alma pressed the letter against her chest and cried. Not quiet tears. Deep shaking sobs that came from the same place her grief for Harold lived. The same place her love for Jalen lived. The same raw center of her that Vincent had tried to dismiss with a wave of his hand. $31 million. $5 million more than Vincent's inheritance. She sat there for a long time, letting the shock settle into something harder, something with edges. Then she wiped her face, folded the letter carefully back into the box, and walked out to Curtis's office. He told you? Curtis said simply. 31 million? 31.4 with interest. Curtis was already pulling out a folder. Harold and I spent the better part of a year setting this up. It's ironclad. A documented gift, not part of the estate. Vincent has zero legal claim. What do I do now? Now you protect yourself. Curtis slid a business card across the desk. Loretta Kwan, best divorce attorney in the state. She doesn't lose. That afternoon, Alma sat across from Loretta Kwan in a glass-walled office overlooking Peachtree Street. Loretta was small, sharp-featured, mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair and the focused intensity of a hawk circling prey. Tell me everything, Loretta said. Start from the funeral. Alma told her. The eggs and the Porsche listing, the flat eyes, the whistling. The way Vincent said blood like it was a weapon. Loretta took notes without expression. When Alma finished, Loretta set her pen down and said, He has no idea about your money. Good, keep it that way. Let him think you're desperate. Let him believe he holds all the cards. Meanwhile we build our case. She pulled out a legal pad. Has he been unfaithful? Alma hesitated. Then she thought about the perfume she'd smelled on Vincent's collar 2 months ago, the late nights. The phone calls he took in the garage. I think so. But I don't have proof. We'll get proof. That evening, Alma picked Jalen up from soccer practice. Her son climbed into the back seat smelling like grass and sweat, his shin guards dangling from one hand. Mom, why does Dad keep going out at night? The question hit her like a fist. What do you mean, baby? He leaves after you go to bed. I hear the car. And when I asked him about it, he said it was business stuff. Jalen paused. But business doesn't happen at midnight, does it? No, Alma thought. No, it doesn't. Don't worry about it, Jay. Dad's just dealing with grown-up things. Is it about Grandpa's money? Why do you say that? Jalen shrugged, too wise for 9. Because he started acting different after Grandpa died. Like he's happy but not really happy. Like he's pretending. Kids see everything, Alma thought. Harold always said that. Kids and dogs, they see straight through people. Over the next week Alma moved carefully. She visited First Unity Bank and confirmed everything. The safe deposit box, the account, the $31.4 million sitting quietly in her name. She met with a financial advisor Curtis recommended, a meticulous woman named Sharon Evers who walked her through investment strategies and tax implications. She documented everything. Vincent's absences, his spending, the new watch he'd bought himself. The new clothes, the way he'd started rearranging the house without asking her, replacing Harold's hand-picked furniture with cold modern pieces that looked like they belonged in a hotel lobby, and she found the proof she needed. Vincent had gotten careless. Or maybe he just didn't care anymore. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower, and the screen lit up with a message from someone named Keisha. Can't wait for the gala Friday. Wearing that dress you picked out. Your taste is improving. Baby Alma's blood cooled to ice. She picked up the phone. He'd changed his passcode of course, but the preview was enough. She photographed the screen with her own phone, then set it back down exactly where it was. Keisha Dunn. She knew the name. A woman from Vincent's gym, always posting on social media about luxury living and manifesting abundance. Alma had met her once at a holiday party. She'd worn a dress cut so low it was practically a suggestion, and she'd laughed too hard at everything Vincent said. Alma sent the photo to Loretta Kwan with a single message, found the proof. Loretta's reply was immediate. Perfect, don't confront him, we're not ready yet. Friday arrived. Vincent came downstairs in a new suit, smelling like cologne Alma had never bought him. I'm going out, he announced. Charity gala at the Buckhead Club. Members only. The Buckhead Club rejected your application 2 years ago. Vincent's jaw tightened. Things are different now. I can afford the initiation fee. Harold was a founding member of that club, Alma said quietly. Did you know that? So I've been going to their events for years, with your father, while you were too busy to join us. Vincent stared at her. You're not invited. I'm on the permanent guest list. Harold made sure of it. She smiled. Have a good time, Vincent. He left without another word, slamming the front door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Alma called her best friend Tracy Mitchell. Get dressed, Alma said. We're going to a gala. Tracy arrived 30 minutes later in emerald green, ready for war. They'd been best friends since sophomore year at Spelman, and Tracy could read Alma's moods like weather patterns. You've got that look, Tracy said as they pulled up to the club. What look? The look you had right before you told Dr. Patterson his surgical plan was wrong. In front of the entire orthopedic department. I was right about that you were, and you're right about this. At the entrance the doorman recognized Alma immediately. Mrs. Jeffries, so sorry about Mr. Harold. He was a great man. You're always welcome here. Inside, crystal and candlelight. A jazz quartet in the corner. And across the room Vincent in his new suit with Keisha Dunn on his arm, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than Alma's monthly mortgage payment. Vincent saw her first. His face cycled through white, red, and a shade of purple Alma had never seen on a human being. What are you doing here? He hissed, crossing the room in 4 long strides. Honoring your father's memory, something you seem to have forgotten how to do. Before Vincent could respond, a silver-haired man approached with a warm handshake. Alma, so glad you came. Harold would have wanted you here. He turned to Vincent with noticeably less warmth. And you must be the son. Harold mentioned you. Just mentioned. Not praised, not celebrated, mentioned, like an afterthought. The evening unfolded like a slow revelation. People gravitated toward Alma. Members who remembered Harold, who knew Alma from years of quiet attendance, who'd watched her serve on the club's scholarship committee and organize holiday toy drives. They hugged her. They told her stories about Harold's generosity. They treated her like family. Vincent and Keisha meanwhile orbited the edges of conversations they couldn't penetrate. Keisha's laugh was too loud. Vincent's stories about his inheritance landed flat. By 9 o'clock Alma could see Keisha's smile cracking at the corners. In the powder room Keisha cornered her. You're making a scene, Keisha said, crossing her arms. I'm having a lovely evening. You're the one who looks uncomfortable. Vincent doesn't want you here. Vincent doesn't get to decide where I go. Not anymore. Alma checked her lipstick in the mirror. But since we're talking, did he tell you he already had divorce papers drawn up? 2 days after his father died? Keisha blinked. Did he tell you he's spending money the estate hasn't even fully released? Did he tell you his 9-year-old son asked me why daddy keeps leaving at midnight? Keisha's face shifted. Something cracked behind her eyes. He told me you were unstable, she said, but her voice had lost its edge. Of course he did. Alma dried her hands. Ask yourself something, Keisha? If he'll throw away an 11-year marriage and a son the week his father dies, what makes you think he won't do the same to you? She walked out. Behind her she heard Keisha exhale like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. The following Monday Loretta filed. Not Vincent's insulting papers, Alma's countersuit. Adultery, full physical custody, supervised visitation pending evaluation, documentation of abandonment, reckless spending, emotional neglect. By Tuesday Vincent was calling every 15 minutes. Alma didn't answer. She went to work. She picked up Jalen. She made dinner. She read him 2 chapters of Percy Jackson and told him she loved him more than the ocean loves the shore. Wednesday morning Vincent showed up at the house, drunk at 10 a.m., reeking of bourbon and rage. You think you can do this to me? He shouted from the front porch. I've got $26 million, Alma. I'll bury you in legal fees. I'll take Jalen. I'll make Shar in the doorway. Calm as stone. You done? I'm just getting started. Good, because so am I. She held his gaze. Your father left me more than he left you, Vincent. Significantly more. And your lawyer can verify that with Curtis Beaufort anytime you'd like. The color drained from Vincent's face like water from a cracked glass. That's impossible. 31 million. Legal, documented, and completely mine. She stepped back inside. Now get off my porch before I call Officer Tatum, who already has 2 incident reports with your name on them. She closed the door. Through the window she watched Vincent stand there for a full minute, mouth open, before stumbling back to his car and peeling out of the driveway. Her phone rang. Loretta. He's going to challenge the will, Loretta said. Let him. We've got medical records proving Harold's competency. We've got Curtis's testimony. We've got 6 years of documented legal financial transfers. He'll spend a fortune on lawyers and get nothing. What about Jalen? Emergency custody hearing is set for Thursday. I've got 12 character witnesses lined up. His teacher, your coworkers, your pastor, 3 neighbors, and, this is the interesting one. Keisha Dunn called my office this morning. Keisha? She wants to testify. For you. Said Vincent asked her to lie under oath about your parenting. Offered her $15,000 to say she'd seen you drunk around Jalen. Alma's stomach turned. He did that. She has the texts. She's bringing everything. Thursday morning, Fulton County Courthouse. Judge Antoinette Bishop presiding, a formidable woman in her 60s who'd seen every kind of family destruction money could buy. Alma walked in and stopped. The hallway was full of people. Tracy in her Sunday best, Pastor Yvonne from church, Jalen's teacher, Ms. Whitfield, 2 nurses from Alma's clinic, Sharon Evers, the financial advisor, 3 neighbors who'd watched Alma raise Jalen with steady hands and an open door, and at the end of the hall sitting alone on a bench Keisha Dunn. She caught Alma's eye and gave a small, tired nod. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Vincent's attorney tried to paint Alma as financially incapable, emotionally unstable, manipulative. He brought up the night Jalen slept in Alma's bed during a thunderstorm. He called it boundary confusion. Judge Bishop was unmoved. Then Loretta presented her case. One by one the witnesses came forward. Ms. Whitfield testified about Alma's presence at every conference, every field trip, every bake sale. The nurses described her professionalism, her compassion, her 6 years without a single sick day. Pastor Yvonne spoke about her faith, her service, her character. Then Keisha took the stand. Mr. Jeffries asked me to commit perjury, she said, her voice steady. He offered me money to say things about Mrs. Jeffries that weren't true. I have every text message. Judge Bishop examined the screenshots with a face like carved granite. Mr. Jeffries, the judge said, turning to Vincent, in the 2 weeks since your father's death you have abandoned your son to pursue a romantic affair. You have attempted to suborn perjury. You have harassed your wife. You have spent recklessly from an estate that hasn't fully settled. And you've somehow convinced yourself that a bank account makes you a father. Vincent's lawyer put a hand on his arm. Vincent shook it off. Money does not impress this court, Judge Bishop continued. Presence impresses this court, consistency impresses this court, and Mrs. Jeffries has demonstrated both in abundance. She granted Alma full physical custody, supervised visitation for Vincent contingent on parenting classes, child support per state guidelines, and a warning. Any further harassment would result in contempt charges. Outside the courthouse, Alma's people surrounded her. Tracy was crying. Pastor Yvonne was praying. Loretta was shaking hands with Curtis Beaufort, who'd driven down from his office just to be there. Across the parking lot, Vincent sat in his Porsche Cayenne alone. He'd gotten the car after all. He had the money, the watch, the suits, the club membership he'd always wanted, and he had no one to share any of it with. Alma felt a flash of something. Not pity exactly, but recognition. She'd loved this man once, really loved him, and maybe somewhere beneath the greed and the rage, the Vincent she married still existed, but it wasn't her job to find him anymore. 3 months later, Alma opened the Jeffries Community Wellness Center in a converted warehouse on Metropolitan Parkway. Free physical therapy, mental health counseling, nutrition classes, a children's after-school program, everything the South Side of Atlanta needed and rarely received. Jalen cut the ribbon with giant scissors, grinning so wide his face could barely hold it. My mom built this, he told every person who walked through the door. My mom and my grandpa. Harold's portrait hung in the lobby. Alma had chosen her favorite photo, sauce on his chin, Jalen on his hip. Beneath it, a small brass plaque, in memory of Harold Jeffries Sr., who believed that wealth is measured in what you give, not what you keep. Tracy was there, of course, Curtis Beaufort, Pastor Yvonne, Sharon Evers, even Keisha, who'd gotten her own apartment, enrolled in nursing school and started over from scratch. Thank you, Keisha said quietly, finding Alma between the chaos of tours and speeches. For what? For asking me the right question that night. What makes you think he won't do the same to you? That question saved my life. Vincent wasn't there. He'd remarried. A woman from the Buckhead Club who matched his new lifestyle like a designer accessory. Their wedding photos looked expensive and hollow. Jalen visited every other weekend and came home each time a little quieter, a little more relieved to walk through his own front door. But slowly, awkwardly, Vincent was trying. He'd started calling Jalen on school nights, asking about homework, remembering soccer game schedules. It was clumsy, imperfect effort, the kind of trying that might eventually become something real. That evening, after the center's opening, after Jalen had fallen asleep on the couch, clutching his ribbon-cutting scissors like a trophy, Alma sat on the porch of the craftsman bungalow she'd bought in Kirkwood, smaller than the house she'd shared with Vincent, warmer. She opened her banking app, something she still did occasionally just to confirm it was real. 31 million, plus growth, plus careful investments Sharon had managed beautifully. But the number didn't give her peace. The center did. Jalen's laughter did. The thank you cards from patients did. The knowledge that she was living the way Harold wanted. Giving back, showing up, building something bigger than herself. Her phone buzzed. Tracy, wine, night Saturday? You earned it. Alma smiled and typed back. Only if we're also celebrating Jalen's science fair trophy. Girl, both. Obviously. She set her phone down and looked up at the sky. Deep Atlanta blue fading into firefly dark. She thought about Harold's letter, now framed in her bedroom where she could read it every morning. Your worth was never measured in dollars. It was measured in the way you showed up. She'd showed up every day in every way she knew how. Through the betrayal and the fear and the courtroom and the fury she'd showed up. And now she was sitting on her own porch, in her own home, with her son sleeping safe inside and a community center with her name on the door, and $31 million she'd used to make sure no one in her neighborhood ever felt as alone, as Vincent tried to make her feel. The box Harold left her hadn't just contained money. It contained permission. Permission to believe she deserved more than crumbs from someone else's table. The balance in that account silenced Vincent's arrogance. But the balance in her life, son, friends, purpose, peace, that was the inheritance that mattered. And she was never going to let anyone make her forget it again.